From the Arkansas Sports Network, it's an in-depth Arkansas Razorbacks podcast featuring the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Brad Caldwell. Around here, we call him the Rain Man of Arkansas Razorback Sports, Mr. Duran Miller. And finally, he wears his hair upside down and he pushes all the buttons, Mr. Bill Harshaw. Everyone get ready, because you're now connected to the Razor Wire.
And welcome back into another episode of the Razor Wire. Bill Harshaw, Brad Caldwell, Duran Miller along with me. And we got another exciting episode for you today as we're going to talk a little bit about a little contract extension going on up in Fayetteville, as well as Arkansas is kind of controlling their own destiny in baseball. Also, softball is hosting some regionals. We'll talk a little bit about that. Big time matchup announced on ESPN that's going to be coming up. Everybody's making, looking at that pretty nice. We'll talk about that. And also, we got some big news on the women's hoop side that we're going to bring to you. Also, Brian Folks interview, where you want to stay tuned for that. That is a good interview that Brad had a chance to talk with Ryan Folks. We'll interview and have that for you, as well as looking ahead to the Arkansas-Florida series. So, guys, welcome into the show.
Glad to be here once again, man. It's episode 5. Nobody thought we'd last this long. Here we are doing it again, man. We've got Ryan Folks on with us today. Man, Ryan, what an awesome guy that guy is. And what a wealth of knowledge he is about Razorback baseball as well. You definitely do not want to miss that interview.
Yeah, glad to be back, episode 5. And it's going quickly. And like you said, Ryan Folks here today. And we got to watch a little bit of that already, and man, it was an awesome interview, and I think y'all are really going to enjoy that. We got a lot of stuff to bring to y'all today.
Absolutely. But the stuff that's hot off the razor wire, the quick stuff to get off the table, so to speak, is Sam Pittman contract kind of rolled over, a little extra extension for him. I think it's well deserved. I mean, he did what he could do with the COVID, and I think it's kind of a throwaway year anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, you go from beating Western Kentucky or losing to Western Kentucky to beating Mississippi State and Ole Miss and Tennessee. So yeah, he deserves a rollover. And you want your coaches to be at least 5 years out at all times. So I think that was the main reason.
Yeah, I think so. And he deserves it. And making the program respectable again, obviously the expectations are going to be higher and higher as time goes on. We'll see if he can get there. But right now, Sam Pittman, he did the job he needed to do.
And he's also right now, as we speak, I think he's headed to Little Rock. He's had this big road show going on all week long. He took a trip up to Harrison and visited with some fans up in Harrison. So he's getting out and meeting the folks and taking Tusk along with him for the ride. So I think that's going to be good exposure for Sam as well.
Yeah, I don't think he's comfortable enough to take his shoes and socks off just yet, but definitely did a good job that first year.
Absolutely. And then Arkansas baseball, guys. I mean, how long has it been since Arkansas baseball has controlled its own destiny when it comes to SEC standings?
It's been a long time. Arkansas has been in the thick of the West race now for a few years. It's just been a progression. And Ryan and I actually talked about this yesterday. But Arkansas's won the SEC West now. I believe this would be the 3rd year in a row, if I'm not mistaken. But right now, first time since 2004, they've got a chance to win the whole SEC in the regular season. And it's quite an accomplishment itself to be able to do that.
Yeah, and no matter what happens this weekend, it's the 4th consecutive year that Arkansas is in the top 4 of the SEC tournament, top 4 seeds. So things are rolling there, and just an excellent job by Dave Van Horn to get us to the point of where he's gotten us now, to where you feel a little bit arrived, where you feel like every year we're going to be first or second or right there in the thick of things. And it didn't always feel that way.
I think what's interesting to me about it the most is the fact that we're no stranger to being in this position. We're no stranger that we're in the top seeds in the tournament. But what is a little different that as Razorback fans, we can kind of take a deep breath and enjoy is the fact that we've been there all year. It's not we got to win one or this game or we're going to have to face this team, that team, or this team. It's we control our own destiny with the rankings and all we got to do is win and we're going to be on top.
win 2 games this week, and you are SEC champions, at least co-champions, depending. And this would just be if everybody swept
Well,
their
yeah.
their own series. If Mississippi State loses 1 game, Arkansas wins the SEC West. It's looking really good for Arkansas right now, and it's just a testament to the season that they've had.
Softball, Bogle Park hosting a super regional, or regional, I should say, up at Fayetteville. The game's getting underway today.
Yes, actually tomorrow.
Tomorrow at noon
against Manhattan. They will be taking on Manhattan, and again, they are hosting. I think this is the second time. I think we posted on ASN the first time. It is the second time they've hosted. They will have a chance to host a super regional. Got to get through the regional first, and again, Courtney Deifel. What can you say? She's done a great job.
Yeah, got the number 6 national seed. So if they can get through this regional, they will host a super regional there as well. So that's huge. Get to play the Manhattan Jaspers right out of the gate, and let's. I hope. I got a good feeling they're going to bounce back. Didn't have a great showing in the SEC tournament. Man, Mary Half pitched her heart out. We lost that game 1-0. So they got a little bad taste there. They haven't played in a week now, so they're ready to roll. And good things coming up. I have a feeling in this regional for the Ladybacks.
Also, this is the big one. Arkansas, Texas, ESPN prime time. That's going to be the one to watch.
Easy,
exciting.
Hootie.
Exciting, man. It's an exciting day. September 11th. It's going to be a fun one. 20 years. It's 20th anniversary of September 11th. Solemn day across the United States, but on that day, it's going to be a lot of fun here in the state of Arkansas with the Texas Longhorns coming in. And this is actually a return game from the Bobby Petrino era, believe it or not. Arkansas went down and got destroyed, and Texas wanted to move this game back. Ended up being all the way to 2021 before Arkansas gets the return game against the Texas Longhorns. But here we are.
Yeah, that was the Colt McCoy years there for the Longhorns, and if you remember, they went to the national championship that year, and they lost to Bama. But was it McCoy? I believe was the starter, and he got hurt like in the first drive. They went down and scored, or they were about to when he got hurt, and it was looking like, man, this is going to be a tough game for Alabama. And then after he went out, it was completely over basically. But who knows what would have happened? So I mean, that was an excellent team. I think we lost 52-0 or 52-6, and Bama was like back to back, and it was like almost identical scores. It was like 52-6, 52-7 at Fayetteville. That Bama game was, and it was just a rough year. But that was Petrino's first year, and we got it rolling after that. So I can't wait to see that game, and it'd be awesome to pay him back a little bit this year.
And who would have thought that the first game that Sam Pittman would coach outside of the SEC would be against Texas?
Right. He does have Rice coming in, but
that's true.
I mean, the major game. You're talking about the first major game out of the SEC Power 5, Texas, and Arkansas's got a shot to win the ball game. You're talking about a non-SEC team coming in and playing an SEC team. I say a lot. SEC teams don't lose on their home field very often in the non-conference because of the physicality of the ball game that the SEC plays. It's just a different level.
Was Sarkisian, was he the OC under Seattle Seahawks coach
Pete Carroll? He was
when we lost at USC, 70-17, and at home the next year, the year we reeled off 10 straight after that. So we got the Texas drumming, and then the USC drumming from him, and of course we played against him a lot. But so we got a lot of payback there. We can get on that team.
He's been in the mix to be Arkansas's coach at one time or another.
Right.
He has been a complete abject disaster wherever he's been as a head coach.
Unless he's under Saban.
Right, but he has been in the Saban rehab program, so we'll see how it goes.
Right.
Of course, Mike Neighbors, switching gears a little bit, Mike Neighbors already had one heck of an incoming star in Jersey Wolfenbarger out of Fort Smith Northside coming up. He picked up another big-time athlete this week. Talk about that one.
Sorry, Miriam Duda. She, I I actually got to watch her. Got to do some highlights this year of her playing the Russellville Cyclones for Bentonville, and man, she's very skilled for a inside player. She's the number one center in the country according to ESPN, number 13 overall player. She was gonna go to Baylor, and when Mulkey, left there, went to LSU, she had a change of heart, decided to stay here. Mike Neighbors swooped in and got her, and she was already signed actually, so they let her out of her letter of intent. Now she's coming here. That's a huge pickup to go with the girl from Fayetteville that's coming back from Oregon State.
Sasha
What's her name?
Gilforth.
Yep, Gilforth, and her Jersey Wolfenbarger, and he's got it rolling. We're going to lose Dungy. We're going to lose the other couple of other girls that we had this year, but I think Ramirez is back, and you add these pieces and the length. I mean, it's really looking good for Ladyback basketball the next couple of seasons here.
Absolutely. And, I think that's the big thing that I was excited about is, you would expect the cupboard to, lose some pieces, each, year to year, but with Neighbors right now, he's keeping that cupboard stocked. And I think that's going to mean good things for Ladyback basketball over the next couple seasons for sure. Then we have the big time series that's a big series last week for the Hogs at Tennessee. An outstanding game, outstanding series, and Arkansas continues to pick up the series wins.
Yes, they do. And this one might have been the most hard fought of them all against a DVH disciple, Tony Vitello, going over to Tennessee after he left Arkansas. And he has got the program rolling over there. In fact, I'm really surprised that he's got it going so quickly. They've been in the gutter for a while, and he came in and really kind of turned the tide for them. And all of a sudden, Tennessee is a real player on the national scene. And I mean, at this point, Tennessee looks to be a national seed threat here, probably somewhere in the 4 to 7 range, depending on how they end the season. And I'll tell you what, they gave Arkansas all they wanted last weekend.
They did. Every game came down to one run. And, I felt like when I was watching that series that Vitello really knew what he was doing, like the way he was schemed, the certain pitchers, the way they approached us at bat against Cops. I mean, Cops had one of his toughest outings that first game. He still did excellent, but they had one guy that, it was a 15 pitch at bat. So I felt like he's really, at first I was thinking, this guy down in the future, he's could be a guy you want to get back here one day, down the road, say 20 years down the road, 15, whenever Van Horn decides to hang it up. Now I'm a little frustrated with the end of the game, the final.
Right.
But anyways, Robert Moore had a big weekend, and it was just an excellent series and an excellent win for the Razorbacks.
Yeah, and we were all, texting back and forth during that final game, and Robert Moore comes to the plate, and we were all like, man, who else would you want to have in this situation than Robert Moore? And I mean, he's a very big shot Bob. Let me tell you, this guy is one of the smartest baseball players you're going to have a chance to listen to speak. When you ask him a question, I attend these press conferences, and I'm always excited when Robert Moore is one of the guests, because he gives you a good insight. And this is what Robert Moore had to say following the series win over Tennessee.
Same old Kevin. I don't know what else to say. We just know whenever he goes in there, we're going to win. So, we were down 1-0. He came in today, I believe, in the 6th, and we knew it was over. So, we believe in our offense, and we believe in Kevin, believe in Costu and Monk and Vermillion and all these guys that came in. But, you have a good feeling you got a chance to win whenever Kevin's in the game. I just think we have a team that believes every time we go out, we're going to win. And obviously we've had unbelievable outings by our pitchers for all of that, whether it's been starters or relievers, but there's always been some big outs getting by different guys. It's not just Kevin. We just have a group of guys that love to play baseball, and whether it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, or even a Wednesday, Thursday practice, we just love playing baseball. So as long as we play in baseball, we'll be ready to hook it up. we thrive in different atmospheres, and we embrace the challenge. And Coach Thompson tells us that we don't always have to have everything go our way. We're better than that. We don't need it. We don't need all the breaks. We don't need all the calls. We don't need the ball to bounce our way all the time because we're better than that. And embrace the challenge that comes our way, and we just thrive in that atmosphere. It's a special team because of that. We have a great leader, and Coach Van Horn. He loves. We love playing for him. We love competing for him, and that's about it.
So that was Robert Moore talking about his big night against Tennessee, and what a great atmosphere that they had. Every time that Arkansas goes on the road, it seems that everybody wants to boost attendance. They want to have that big time atmosphere, and Tennessee didn't disappoint.
Reminds me of two things from my sporting life in the past. One, the UNLV Running Rebels back in the early 1990s when they would come to town. There was, Arkansas hosted the Rebels at Barnhill, and, there was probably too many in the building for fire code that day. It's a real similar situation. Everybody decides to open up when Arkansas comes to town. They had pretty much all of the capacity there, the 100% capacity. It's kind of an anomaly. It also reminds me of when Michael Jordan played at the end of his career, when they were just putting people into the buildings. They actually hosted a game. I think it was against the Atlanta Hawks when they hosted in the Georgia Dome. Had 62,000 people there to watch as Michael Jordan was his last game. It's kind of the same thing. It's Arkansas is the ticket right now in college baseball. I mean, it's really hard to believe when you think about that.
It is. It is. And what's interesting is, all of these teams, when we go on the road, they're boosting up their attendance numbers, and rightfully so. But what that does is that's helping Arkansas, because at the end of the day, we've been to all of these big time top 5 locations with packed atmospheres, and they can't say the same thing. They can't say, well, we went to Mississippi State and we had to do all that. We were the ones that they opened it up for, and we're having to deal with it on the road. And of course, we're going to get that this weekend hosting Florida, but that's going to help us when we get into super regionals, Omaha. Definitely. We're going to be able to say we've played in these atmospheres, and a lot of these other teams simply haven't.
That's right. I mean, the thing is, with the regional atmosphere, Arkansas is going to have that in their favor. That's going to be big. We'll get into it in just a little bit, but that's a huge thing. I mean, if Arkansas had to go on the road, all of this SEC stuff that they're doing right now would be huge. But right now, Arkansas far and away, if you look at the record versus the other regional hosts, Arkansas is far and away the best team in the country right now. I mean, it sets up for a win or bust situation. But as of right now, Arkansas is 14-4 against teams who are expected to host. Can you believe that?
Right. Yeah.
Expected to host regionals. Arkansas is 14-4 against them.
It's amazing. That's an amazing stat. People talk about, is this team Omaha or we bust if we don't make it to Omaha? And I'll be honest with you, we don't make it to that championship, it's a bust to me, and really win it. Not just getting there. And, if we didn't make it there, like if we didn't get there to super regional and the regional, I mean, that would be a huge disappointment, because this is a fabulous team. And really, like, the RPI is number 1, the strength of schedule is number 1. They have earned it. And we are clearly the best team in the country. Now, it's still baseball. You can lose 2 out of 3 pretty easily. How many games have we won by one game, by one swing of the bat, So, but this team is primed to do a great thing here.
Absolutely. And it was a big time series against Tennessee. And you could tell the tensions were high after the game. Everybody saw, hopefully everybody saw Dave Van Horn and the Vitello, exchange there towards the end. I don't know what it was all about. I know it was asked of Dave Van Horn in his post-game press conference, and he was a little irritated about that then. And so, I mean, it was a tough situation. I don't know if they were arguing over, which way the toilet paper roll goes. It could have been, don't quote me on this, but it could have been something that, Vitello said, that that pineapple didn't go on pizza and Dave Van Horn wasn't having any of that. I don't know.
Yeah, I basically think it was Van Horn was like, great series, y'all did an awesome job. And I think Vitello was basically like, you got lucky. Next time we're gonna stick it to you. And I think Van Horn after that just lost it. And he was basically like, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. But I
mean, who knows?
It was crazy.
Maybe it got to Vitello a little bit, and maybe the pressure of the moment got to him. Maybe he was over there shedding a tear. I don't know. And Dave Van Horn said,
Right.
There is no crying in baseball.
Yeah.
Who knows? Vitello's face was covered. We can't really tell.
That's funny.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that Vitello came to home plate and he said, LeBron's the GOAT and DVH was not having any of that mess. Get out of here with that stuff, man.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was about.
There you have it.
Right.
But it was a great series, and Arkansas needed that win. We have won every series to date in this season, and one more with Florida coming up, and we're going to talk about that here in a moment.
Yeah, and we've got Ryan Folks right now, man. And if you have not followed Ryan, if you're a fan of Razorback Baseball, you need to go follow Ryan on Twitter at Ryan Folks. Also, you can follow his page, Bombology, Baumology, Bombology, like the study of bomb. And he does that. He's a big time baseball advocate, and you don't want to miss what he's got to say. And we'd like to welcome in Ryan Folks to the broadcast, our first ever guest on the Razor Wire, by the way. We're excited to have you, Ryan. Ryan, appreciate you joining us here on the Razor Wire today.
Yes, sir. Happy to be on.
So we have been talking quite a bit here before we got into the interview, and you went to Knoxville last week. Man, that series was completely intense. I mean, baseball, like super regional type of atmosphere there in Tennessee. Tell us a little bit about what you saw there amongst the Orange Brethren over there.
I saw two teams that were really, really good, and I saw two teams that were really well managed. In fact, I talked to some of the kind of debrief with some of the fans that I was out there with, and they said that this was probably the most. I don't know if Tennessee necessarily has across the board the best players that we've played against all year. They got a lot of good ones. And they're much deeper than a lot of teams that I've seen this year. But this was definitely the most well-managed game against Arkansas that we saw all year. And it's no surprise to me that Tony Vitello would be a good manager, because he was, an assistant under Van Horn for a number of years before he took that job over there. So it makes sense to me that he would be good at it. But it certainly was one of the most it was very intense. It was very I would say it was mostly it was almost like professional atmosphere for the most part. There's some stuff that I'm sure that we could talk about that was not so professional in there, but it was a very well managed game and well executed game by both the teams that were there, and it turned out about as well as you could hope for going on the road and to a top five to see a top five team.
I would love to talk to you about the tiff between Van Horn and Vitello at the end, but I don't know that we're going to get very far with that. But obviously, that was one of the interesting things that happened, obviously, at the very end of the series. But Arkansas has now just dominated top 5, top 10 competition this year. What do you make of that? I mean, a lot of people are saying that this is now national championship or bust. I mean, at this point, you got to think that Arkansas is the number 1 overall seed. But what do you think about their performances versus that high caliber of opponents throughout the year?
They've been incredible, and they've done something that I've never seen an Arkansas team do so far, which is not lose a series. Knock on wood. Got one left before the end of the regular season, and if the old adage in baseball and college baseball is if you win every series, you win the national championship, right? So if they just do what they've been doing all year, they definitely got a great shot to do something really special. But the guys that I've talked to, they talk about just in the locker room and on the field, they have a lot of fun and they care about each other and they love each other, but they talk about how well run and how almost like it's a professional organization, and they're learning how to be professional ball players while they're at the University of Arkansas. So that's why you see these things where it's like, you know what, they give up 5 runs in the first inning to Tennessee. No panic. There's no panic in the dugout. They believe that they can get back in the game. They know they've got the players alongside them. No one guy feels like he's got to do it himself. They know that they can build back and win those games. And, I think one of the things that we've seen all year is it seems like we love to start turning it on in like the 6th inning or later, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of this weird theme that, I guess you'd rather it be the 6th inning and later than the 5th inning and sooner. And that's it, if you had to pick one or the other, right? But they never believe that they're out of it. We always make jokes, about like when we go to the ballpark, sometimes if you're down late, some people like to beat the traffic. And I think that you'd be very, very, very unwise to try to beat the traffic when the Razorbacks are on the field, because man, there's no lead that's safe against them. And they really do believe they can win every single game.
They do. I mean, I think that's evident. And they've proven it. 13, something like that, comeback victories now on the season. Just 10 losses on the year at this point, coming up, I think 39-10 at this point. I mean, there's a lot of shades of 2018 in there. In fact, honestly, even better as far as the regular season goes. First off, have you been able to shake the 2018 foul ball drop? Because I know that's been something that's haunted Razorback Nation now since that happened. And I know that it's on the minds of fans here as we move into what will be the SEC tournament next week, regionals and super regionals, and obviously Omaha after that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I was upset about the moment, but not because I was upset at anybody.
Yeah.
I just know how hard it was on those guys, but really as soon as they started showing that they were over it, which between 2018 and 2019, they seemed to bounce back pretty good, got back to the College World Series again. Nobody's held on to that. And I kind of always run with whatever they're running with. So if it seems like they're over it, I'm over it, as far as the comparison to the 2018 team, I'll tell you another story. I was talking to another fan. Is actually a player's parent, and he said, "Hey, is this the best Razorback baseball team you've ever seen?" And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, the best team I've ever seen was that 2018 team. Mm-hmm. And what does this team have, or what have they done that they either didn't do, or what does this team not have that that 2018 team had? And by the time that he asked me this, it was I think we had just taken the doubleheader against Texas A&M. It was a few weeks back, and at the time, what I told him was the one thing that the 2018 team had was they had that firm, bona fide ace that you knew you were getting that win on Friday night. You knew you were getting it, and at this point in the season, I don't think Patrick Wicklander had kind of like quite 100%. He was coming into that role, but he hadn't quite staked his claim on that role yet, and he's done it since then. Mm-hmm. So it's scary to see kind of what this team can end up doing down the stretch. But the one thing that this team has done that team didn't do as well is win on the road. This team doesn't care where they play, doesn't matter what fans are behind them. They're going to win. They're going to find a way to win every single game. Arkansas, 2018, didn't lose at home, struggled a little bit on the road. This team is very, very well balanced. They're not winning every home game, but they're winning the series. And in Omaha, if you get to the final series, if you win the first 2, you don't play the third one. So, and that's kind of that's just been the theme all year is if they get down, they know how to stay in it and fight back, and otherwise they know how to put people away early as well.
It seems like they've done it in so many ways, whether it be hitting home runs or even on Sunday, playing a little small ball here and there and not hitting the ball out of the park, still being able to win ball games. It's just pretty amazing to watch what they're doing. Tell us a little bit about what you think about Florida coming up, and just kind of give everybody scenarios here of what Arkansas has to do to wrap up SEC West, and then, I guess that's the only 2 at this point.
Mm-hmm. So Florida, the one thing that I feel like we have to remember is that at the beginning of the season, before we really knew anything about anybody, they were the undisputed #1 team in the nation across the board. So the credit that Arkansas is getting now was the credit that they were given in the preseason. And even though it's the Razorbacks title that they're holding on to now, they're the number one team across all these different publications. Florida's still good. Florida's still a really good team, and I think that they've got a couple series wins. They beat Vanderbilt at home, and Vanderbilt's a good team, and they're back in the top. They're near the top as well. So I don't know what, depending on what rankings you look at, you got another top 5 matchup here at the University of Arkansas this weekend. What I've seen from them this year, I think that we've seen better individual pitchers throughout the season. We've seen really good pitchers throughout the season. I don't know that we've seen 3 good pitchers 3 days in a row from a starting pitching perspective. They've got a lot more depth than a lot of the teams that we've played. I don't think that it's just like if they got a starting pitcher that gets lit up, they got 2 other really good guys that they can lean on the weekend. So it's if we do have let's say we have a really good Thursday night, we can hit that guy pretty hard and have a good start. They don't panic. Their whole weekend isn't in disarray because of that. Whereas some other teams that don't have that depth, we've been able to take advantage of that a little bit. They've got really, really good hitters. At the beginning of the year, I know that Judd Fabian was getting a lot of hype over there, and he's certainly lived up to it. So they've got a really good lineup. They got really good pitching. It's probably the most well-balanced team. I would say very close to what we saw at Tennessee. And obviously they've got a great coach as well, who's won a national championship with them recently. So it's going to be a really tough matchup, and it's going to be something where our guys have to be locked in all 3 games, which, that's no question that I have no question that that's going to happen. But every one of these games really will have a high level of intensity and really matter. And you were kind of asking about the scenarios for the SEC, and it kind of plays into that. If Arkansas wins 1 game, we guarantee a share of the SEC West. So if we win 1, lose the other 2, and then of course Mississippi State, who's 1 game behind, if they swept, we would be, every Arkansas fan's favorite word, we'd be co-champs of the SEC West. Even though I know everybody's thinking what about we swept Mississippi State? What about the tiebreaker? It does go into the seeding in the college or the SEC tournament. But as far as the title, the trophy goes, we would be the co-champions. So if we win 2, we lock in outright SEC West title. If we win 3, we have to win all 3 to guarantee the SEC outright title. Because with Tennessee being 1 game back from us, of course, if Tennessee's going to South Carolina this weekend, I believe, if they lose any, it certainly expedites our process over here. But the important thing, I think, is that the Hogs are in a position where they're kind of like the commanders of their own destiny, right? We don't have to hinge. The title is not dependent on what somebody else does. They can just win and get it done. And then if anybody else that's close drops a game or 2, that's gravy. But it's not necessary for the Hogs to claim the West or the outright SEC.
What do you make of where the program as a whole is right now? It seems to be on another level than it has been even, since Van Horn's been at Arkansas, they've been going to the College World Series. But it seemed like about every 3 years they were going to the College World Series. Right now they're knocking on the door of going to it 3 years in a row. What do you make of where it is, and then what do you make of how it got there?
It's stuff like this doesn't happen overnight, right? Van Horn, we all know he's a great coach now. I know that Broyles and Norm wanted him back in 2003 whenever they got him. But I don't know that anybody expected, maybe besides Van Horn, maybe he expected this, but I don't know that anybody just assumes that you're going to be a College World Series contender every year, year in and year out. And it takes a while to build that culture. But really, I think the really important thing is it takes buy-in from the players. The players have to believe that they can do it, and the players have to come alongside each other. And one of the things, this is something that I think has been so encouraging this year, is we look at third base this year, right? Jacob Nesbitt has been our guy at third base, and then Cullen Smith comes in, and he's been getting some reps there as well. And they're kind of in a platoon type deal over at third base. And those guys are great friends with each other. There's no animosity of like, oh, that guy's getting my innings or that guy's getting my at bats. They root for each other. they care about each other. And if somebody is lifting up, if Cullen sees somebody saying nice things about Nesbitt on Twitter or whatever, he's going to like it. He's going to retweet it. And if same thing goes the other way, they root for each other. They want each other to be successful. And this team this year, especially, and I'm not saying that other teams in the past haven't done this, but I know for a fact this team this year is putting team above self. And you're seeing that the success of that and kind of the fruit of that play out throughout the season. As far as the culture, I know that this is something that has been, it's probably been building for a lot longer than I think it has. But certainly since there's some guys in there that are in those leadership and those captain roles now that were kind of started to develop this let's love each other, let's play for each other, let's not play against each other type culture for the last handful of years. And really it's the reason why in 2016, when we had a rough year, probably the worst year ever under Van Horn, kind of an uncharacteristically bad year, they can make a regional next year, in the College World Series the next year after that. You don't have those. Arkansas is not one of those teams that's gonna have like the one, like, this is our chance, and then they're in the dumps for the next 5 or 6 years. They're going to be a team that's going to consistently compete for that every year. And I think back in like 2017, I was goofing around or something. I don't know. I really believed it, but I said, hey, we're about to enter the golden age of Arkansas baseball. And because I was watching them out there one fall practice, and is in fall of 2017. It was right before the 2018 season. I was watching guys like Kerstad and Martin and those guys do their thing out there. I was like, this is about to get really, really good. And sure enough, I mean, they delivered on just what I saw them doing. Wasn't really a surprise to me. Well, I don't want to say I take it for granted or anything, but it certainly was expected based on the work that I saw that those guys were putting in. So, I'm not surprised to see them competing for it again, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're not making a play for it again the next year or the year after that, because it's just the buy-in from the players that really makes the difference.
This reminds me of when I was a kid. I'm a little older than you are, but when I was a kid, I mean, Nolan Richardson and the basketball team. I mean, it reminds me so much of that run there. Now, the difference was college, the conference championships. They won several, but I would say that it's probably easier to win the Southwest Conference Basketball Championship, Southeastern Conference Basketball Championship, than it is to win a Southeastern Conference Baseball Championship even now. And so that's a little bit different, but I mean, you're talking about going to the College World Series, really similar to going to the Final Four. And they're always knocking on the door. That's the way the basketball team was at that time. And I actually wrote exactly what you're saying. When I worked at my previous employer, I wrote an article that said, we are in the golden age of Arkansas baseball. It's there, and I agree with you 100%. It seems like that the wheels just continue to turn, and if they don't win it all this year, they're going to be there again next year.
Wouldn't be surprised, but it's because of those guys on the field that are putting in the work and they're putting in the effort, and they believe that they can get there. And of course, Van Horn and Thompson and Hobbs are recruiting, doing a great job on that front as well, but they're getting guys that believe in what they're doing. So absolutely. Yeah. And I'm, hopefully we see him make a deep run this year, but Robert Moore had said something the other day where he said, winning a regional is hard. Winning a super regional is hard. And getting through the first half of the College World Series is hard. And it only gets harder every step that you get, and the pressure builds and the competition gets better every single step of the way. And they can do it. There's no doubt in my mind that this team can do it. And you just got to hope that it comes through at the right time,
Right.
And baseball it can be a cruel game sometime, it can be a cruel game. And like, I remember down in 2018, 18, 19, 18. I think it was 2018. We were down in Baton Rouge. Yeah, it was the last time we went to Baton Rouge. Heston Kerstad went like 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts one day. And the next day he like hit 2 bombs and put one of them off the top of the foul pole, and that's just baseball, and just like it can be that way for a player, it can be that way for a team. And these guys have so far done a really good job coming alongside each other so that those days don't pile up. And that's why I think you're seeing a lot of success. It's just the care and attention that they've showed each other.
Absolutely. Well, Ryan, man, we really appreciate you joining us here on the Razor Wire, and man, we're looking forward to what's going to happen here in the next few weeks because it's about to get good.
Certainly is. We hope, you know.
Right. Ryan Folks, and Ryan, let them know where you can find, or they can find you on Twitter.
Yeah, my handle is at Ryan Folks. We also do a little bit of work through Bombology. It's just a little. We do some write-ups. I got a guy writing for me. Rhett's taking some good pictures that you can find in there. And but yeah, just I feel like I'm not too far away on the internet. More importantly, I think the best place to find me is at the ballpark if you can. So
Right.
I'd love to see anybody there.
All right. Ryan Folks, find him on Twitter, Bombology as well on Twitter, and Facebook, right? You do Facebook?
Yeah, Bombology is on Facebook. I'm not, but they are. Yeah.
All right. All right. So you can find them all there. Ryan Folks joining us here on the Razor Wire. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome back here to the Razor Wire. I want to thank Ryan Folks for joining us. A great interview there for him. And, you know, Arkansas, we got a big time series coming up against Florida, and Dave Van Horn, he's not talking about a whole lot to his team. That's for sure.
Yeah. You know, he's talking, he's not talking about how we're number one, how we get a chance to win all this. You know, he doesn't really want to, you know, it's a coaching move there. It's smart. You know, he that you don't want to add that pressure to your players. You just want to talk about the next game in front of you, what you got to do to win that game. You know, what your strategies are, who you're pitching against, of that nature. But it can't be any bigger this series, and the implications are huge. And winning the SEC overall would be really outstanding. Just winning the SEC West, you know, Van Horn says that's one of his biggest goals because, you know, we don't play everybody in the East every year, but you play everybody in the West, and that's something that he definitely wants to win every year
Yeah.
if he can.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he probably didn't say it, but the West is tougher than the East, and so winning the West is harder probably than winning the SEC championship in some ways. I mean, if you look at the schedule that Arkansas has played this year, and you look at the teams like Tennessee, like Mississippi State, those teams that have played around Arkansas, they have not played the schedule that Arkansas has. Obviously, Mississippi State has played a little bit better of a schedule because they've played in the West. But I just can't even think of a team that has played as tough of a schedule as Arkansas baseball outside of Arkansas football last year. I mean, you know, it's been insane how tough the schedule has been and how well that they have managed it.
It is. And I think it's by way of not talking about it. You know, as fans, we get a chance to sit back and say, you know, this is great. Let's bask in this moment. And Dave Van Horn says they're not talking about it. You know, he knows that it's on their minds, but it's something that in the locker room, he hears a lot of things. But talking about rankings and what ifs and things like that isn't one of them. And here's what Dave Van Horn had to say.
We may send in a suggestion here, or Casey may look at us, but we let those guys roll because they want to work fast. We want to keep the rhythm going. And, you know, we trust both of them, make good decisions. If there's something going on, we really want a certain pitch, we're going to let them know. But for the most part, it's probably 95% of the time they're making the decision on which pitch to call, and they move fast. And that's good. Rhythm, pitching and hitting is good. Yeah, I mean, we probably could have announced a third day start, but we need to see where we're at. Who do we need to use to win game one? Do we have a chance to win game one? Same with game two. You know, Paulette's been pitching there, but we might bring him out of the pen tomorrow. We might bring him out of the pen Saturday, or start him on Saturday, game three. You know, we could announce Lockhart because he started really well against Tennessee, did a great job, and but we figured we wanted to get Bolden a start. He deserves it. He pitched really well and gave us a chance to get back in that game and win it the other day, give us a chance to win it. And we just felt like that, he's older, he deserves it. But yeah, I mean, I guess to answer your question is, and basically what you're saying is, you don't have 3 lockdown starters all year and still changing things up, and you've got a chance to win the SEC championship. I mean, it's just been a great group effort. It's about the team, and the team really pulls for each other. And yeah, there's guys that are disappointed that maybe they don't get to start, whether it's in the field or in a game on the mound. But bottom line, they just want to win. They just want to help the team. And I think that's one reason that we're where we are. We don't really have a selfish team. They just want to win. Because you can get hot, play good at the end, get a break, and you can get to Omaha, every now and then, maybe once in a while. But when you go through the gauntlet of the SEC week in and week out, and you can hang in there and have a chance to win the league, it's a big deal. And I do believe that maybe fans that aren't super, super close to college baseball, they probably don't understand as much as the ones that do. But it's not our ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is to play late into June. And, I've never talked to our team about winning the West, winning the overall, winning the conference tournament. Don't bring it up. These guys, they want to win. We know they want to win. That's why they work hard every day. And if we win it, it'd be awesome. If we don't, hats off to the team that does. We'll just keep playing. Yeah, I don't mention it at all, not even a little. I've never mentioned it to the team. So they know, obviously, and they know that different things will happen if it doesn't go well. I don't think that the rankings were really that important to them. Like they're just fighting to stay at the top. I don't believe that at all. I don't see it. Never hear the talk. I hear a lot of talk. I hear a lot of things I wouldn't repeat, but I'm not going to tell you. But I've never really heard guys in there talking about being ranked or where they're at, or if we don't win this game, we're going to fall out of the top 5. They know that it's nice and it's fun and maybe some bragging rights, for the fans, but for them to hang in there and stay up there all year, it's been special. It just means they show up every day and they found a way to win each weekend. And, they know what we want to do, and that's win at the end. I remember, I think it was Aaron Fitz said something like before the season, maybe he went and watched him, and he said, this is the most complete Florida team you've ever seen. I think he said that. Somebody said that knows college baseball really well. And I think that's what he meant by that was, man, they can really pitch. They can really hit. They got a lot of options, a lot of weapons. And I think that's probably the strength of their team is they have options offensively. And if some guys aren't getting it done, they can go to the next 2 or 3 and they're just as good. And the same on the mound. And that's why they felt that they could pull maybe some of the guys with more experience that had started and put them in the bullpen and make their team stronger. And, you have to beat them. You got to plan for 27 outs or whatever it takes, and you got to hold them down because they can do it. I just think they're deep. I mean, they were preseason number 1 in like every poll, and they have really good arms. They had good freshman arms come in. They kept some guys that didn't sign last year in the 5-round draft. They're playing more freshmen in the field now. They've got some really good hitters. They're a dangerous team. I mean, there's a lot of teams in the SEC that are dangerous, and Florida's one of them. So am I saying they're better than Mississippi State or Ole Miss or some of these other teams we played? They're just as good from what we've been told. And the fans, we're really excited. I even told the players, when it came out that there's a lot of new guys in the program and then guys that were new last year that really didn't get to feel an SEC crowd or at home. And this will be their first time and only time as far as an SEC crowd. And it's different. We need the fans. We need the fans to be loud. We need the fans to help us. And this is when they can do it. Full crowd, playing a great team like Florida. And we need them to be into it and like it's a super regional. We need that kind of feel here.
So again, I want to thank Dave Van Horn for those comments during his press conference this week with Arkansas media. And as he said there at the end, Arkansas is boosting its capacity for the series, as well as the regionals, super regionals. NCAA said we're going to boost those up. And Arkansas has been in that situation. And Van Horn says we need our guys to be there as if it was a super regional. Brad, when you hear that, what are your thoughts?
Well, one thing that Ryan Folks talked about was the fact that, well, I can't remember if it actually in the interview or if we talked about it outside because we had a chat forever. But he's talking about how that the full capacity, especially in the hog pen, he says that the wave of energy comes out of the hog pen and kind of just rolls down the stadium. And, when you think about what Baum Stadium has been for Arkansas, go back to 2015 when Arkansas really wasn't a great team. They ended up coming out of a regional. They ended up hosting a super regional when they shouldn't have. Missouri State was in line to host. They were number 8 overall seed that year. And Arkansas hosted that regional. Arkansas won that regional due to the fact that they hosted it. If they didn't host it, they wouldn't have won it. Baum Stadium makes a difference in points, in runs, in hits, in pitching, not only for Arkansas, but against the other team.
Well, you're 100% right there. Definitely. Southwest Missouri State, Missouri State, sorry, they were having stadium expansion, or whatever they were doing, construction on it, and that's why we had to do that, and or that's why we got to do that. But it's going to be big. Fill it up, be loud. I know we're going to. The rain chances basically after today aren't really that bad, so I think everything's going to work out right there. So Florida is fixing to walk into a buzzsaw up in Northwest Arkansas, and that's what we're looking for. I mean, it's going to be exciting, and the first game we're going to start Wicklander. He started against Tennessee, and it was his worst start in a while. He's been really rolling, and so let's see if he can bounce back here. And the good thing about Wicklander is usually in his last few starts when he was really dominating, is teams don't see his pitches very well. He gets a lot of swings and misses for whatever reason, and that's kind of going back to what I was talking about with Tony Vitello. Was I felt like they were ready for a lot of our pitchers. They worked the fastball on Paulette big time. Paulette had to basically go to the breaking ball a lot more, and honestly, Paulette, he's got a really plus breaking ball, and he's got a high spin on it. His thing is if he can get it to not hang up a little bit and get a little high, he really can dominate with it. And I felt like in that game, he kind of grew up a little bit because he kind of had to hang out there for another batter or two before they got. I think that was the game that Monk came in for him possibly, and then we went to some Cops eventually. Maybe not. Cops was the third game, but Vermillion, I don't remember exactly. That's the game they come back and got the 3-run home run, but and beat us. But I think Paulette grew up a little bit because he depended a little bit more on his off-speed stuff, and I think that's going to help him going down the line. He might get that start on game 3. We don't know, him or Lockhart. But Lockhart, he's kind of a 3 or 4 inning guy.
4 inning, he kind of hits a wall in the 5th.
Right.
That's something he's going to have to get over.
Yeah, and I think Van Horn talked about it in one of his interviews that basically, if he walks him back out there for that 5th, he hopes that he can work through it. But if he can't, they got to make sure they're not a batter too late on getting him out of the game, because it's basically been that way.
And that's exactly what Dave Van Horn said. He said, matter of fact, if we get him in there, if we get Lockhart in there and he goes 4 innings, we may bring him out of 5th. But we promise you, we're going to have somebody ready to go at the start of that 5th, because he said, and I quote, he doesn't want to be 2 batters behind that decision. Yep. And that's what he's been made. And that's the kind of give and take that you see from Dave Van Horn. He's very intelligent when it comes to the managing the game.
Really? He knows the game. Dave Van Horn.
I'm telling you. Who would have thought?
After every loss, Arkansas,
I know. Exactly. People want to fire him.
Yeah, everybody wants to fire him. So anyway, but one thing that I will say about just the whole in general, Arkansas, their starting pitching isn't quite as strong as it has been in the past, especially with a guy like a Blaine Knight or Isaiah Campbell or somebody like that. But they've got a wealth of arms that they can still go to. I like what Ryan Folks was talking about, how that Arkansas's got a chance to work these guys out, guys like Connor Nolan. We talked about
Mhm.
him a lot throughout. I mean, there are plenty of guys there that Arkansas can go to. Trest is another guy you hadn't seen a lot of this year that they've depended on in the past. That if they get those guys going, maybe you only have to get 3 innings out of your starter. I mean, that's kind of a
Right.
foreign concept there, but maybe that's where we're at.
Yeah. And we brought this up many times in some of our episodes, and even you and Ryan talked about it a little bit, is the the 18 team was probably the best team any of us have seen in Arkansas. And what's the difference with that team? They had the shutdown guy, Blaine Knight. The next season, the 19 team, which is a very good team, got back to Omaha and lost, to Texas Tech and Michigan, both one-run games. That team had Isaiah Campbell, and you knew you were getting a win on Friday night. You're opening out of a series, and we don't have that. But I've been thinking about that, and it's like, how are we so dominant, and we don't really have that? And I'm starting to think more and more that because Cops could be that guy. We could start him game one, and he could be the guy to in that role where we know we're getting that victory, or he's going to hold them down to 2 or less runs more likely. But the way we're doing it, and it's really unique because you never see this. You don't see a guy throw 50 or 60 pitches and then come back in a series. And if he does, it's for like 2 or 3 batters an inning, maybe 20 pitches. We've never seen a guy 50, 60 pitches twice a weekend. And I think that is really why we're seeing. I mean, obviously we're good lineup and everything else, but I think that's a big thing there where you have him able to you get us 4 or 5 innings and then he finishes it off. If you can get to 6, that's just bonus time. He finishes us off, gives them the game 2 break. Game 3, he comes back and does it again. If we have to play a game 3 when we get to regionals, you know what I'm saying? So I think that is really why we don't really see that starter, but it's because Cops is so important. He's so phenomenal on what he does, and I think that's really why we are as dominant and winning the games we are.
And I think also to add to that, I think we're not distracted by the polls. We're not distracted about are we going to win the West? We're not distracted about how many games up are we over, the other guys in the SEC West or SEC, and that takes a lot of stress and a lot of pressure off of this team because at this point they just play to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you kind of understand the magic of what Dave Van Horn does. I think he kind of lets you in on that right there. We don't look at this stuff. We don't put the pressure on us. We take it one game at a time. They say that a lot, those guys that the coaches do. But I think you're literally seeing what happens when you actually make that a priority. We just play the game that's in front of us. We don't worry about what if we win this game or what if we lose that game.
Well, I will say this. You play to win a game. That's what you do. I mean, you play to win the game. If you don't care about winning, you need to quit. You need to retire. You know what? This is broke anyways. I'm out of here.
There you have it, guys. Duran's out. We'll see him next week. Stay tuned. We'll be back same time, same place next week, right here on
The Razor Wire.